All right, it is time for our weekly Rants and Raves, and starting with Tom Fiedler.
Well, you know, David Koch maybe could do many things with his money, but he can't get a letter into the Los Angeles Times. The Los Angeles Times declared, the editor of their editorial page declared that they will no longer publish any letter from a climate change denier because they've decided that everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but you're not entitled to make up facts or unfacts, and that the Times will no longer provide that platform. I have to say, a little bit overdue, but something that a little signal out there.
That's a good point. Actually, Tom, a number of news organizations have already done that, including the Huffington Post, I think, almost a year ago, because we discussed it here. Right. So I think, you know, good for them, but I think there are a lot of people who are not allowing any kind of debate, any kind of comment at all. Just it's not even open for comment.
No, I mean, why be stupid, really?
Oh, and we just did a thing about science, Popular Science magazine, refusing to take comments on anything that was, you know, if it's science, it's science. Don't try to debate the science.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, Dan, what do you got?
Well, you know, in a few weeks, John Henry will take control of the Boston Globe. But in this time, the Globe is still moving ahead on some of its technological innovations, which have been many and interesting. One of the more interesting ones they announced this week is that starting next year, their free Boston.com site is going to feature something like the Facebook news feed that will be personalized for you, and you don't have to do anything. It will figure out your behavior. So, for instance, if you never click on a video, fewer videos will show up in your news feed. And, you know, it's a little bit 1984, a little bit like the Daily Me that has been criticized over the years. But it's an interesting idea.
And this is great. So does that mean I'm going to get more of those really bizarre stories? Because those are the only ones I ever click on.
You'll get more. You'll get more two-headed cats and things like that. Absolutely.
All right, Callie, what do you got?
This caught my eye literally because Fox decided to redo its newsroom into the future, they say. And this is Shepard Smith doing it. So first take a look at these huge monitors. They're Microsoft monitors. And let's take a little bit of a look at the video.
We call these BATs, big area touchscreens, and this allows us to go through all of our vetted sources, and it compiles the different stories that we may or may not be using into one easy-to-use platform.
Very cool.
Well, you know, so Jeff, the producer of this show, said, well, is it a rant or a rave? And I said, you know, I don't know how I feel about it. On the one hand, what is happening in so many shows now, they're making a prominent part of the newscast. We're going to check the Twitter. We're checking the social media. So you got that on the Today Show. They built a whole other section that's happening on some of the. I watch a lot of morning shows. It's happening everywhere. Then we've got John King with the big, you know, fancy screens when he's doing that. So this is kind of a combination of both. On these huge screens, they can keep up with the Twitter feeds and all of the social media, as well as do the other news stuff. So what they hope to do, according to this video, Shepard Smith, is to sort of, when they see it coming together, pull it together in a way after, you know, clearing it to be correct information, and, you know, put it on the air with.
See, I always find it problematic when mainstream media tries to copy the social media world. We've talked about this with the New York Times Magazine, where their letters to the editor page is now reply all. Why? It's not a social media. It's not a computer. It's not. So it's like trying to copy something that's a whole different medium because they want to be cool about it.
Well, they definitely want to be cool about it, and I think in this instance what they're trying to do is they would have somebody monitoring Twitter. They would have somebody monitoring Facebook. They just put it on these big, as they say, bat monitors. And I think it's also interesting they're using Microsoft. This is not Apple. This is Microsoft. So in some ways it feels a little retro at the same time. They're going forward.
All right, George, what do you got?
Well, I have a pre-broadcast rave for none other than the pugilistic Alec Baldwin, the fabulous comedic actor who is tonight debuting on MSNBC with a talk show. I think he wants to be the modern-day David Frost, and I was very skeptical about it. You know, I read about it, and certainly Baldwin's politics run along the MSNBC line. but happened to stumble across a radio broadcast. He has a show on WNYC, and I heard him, and I just was so impressed by the acuity of his questions, and it wasn't about him. It was
Do we have a clip of it or no?
No.
Bummer.
Should have sent it up. But
it hasn't started yet, sorry.
Well, the TV show starts tonight, but he has a radio show too, and he's... So here's somebody that maybe I say anyone who wants to be a journalist or pretend to, come on in and give it a shot. But I think he's going to surprise in this show. I think because he has a huge celebrity factor. But I also think he's actually good at it.
I'm sure MSNBC would not have given him that spot if he was just a good-looking, quirky. He's got to have some chops journalistically, I'm sure. So
is this the end of Lockup or Lockdown or whatever?
Yes, it is.
Excellent.
I love that show.
That show's done, and that show's done. And so on Friday nights he comes in.
Just get it on my computer.
That 10 o'clock slot.
All right, I have a rave this week for PolitiFact. So they have announced that in addition to fact-checking politicians and debates and all that kind of stuff, they are going to go into the field of fact-checking pundits. So, how do you say it? Pundit. There it is.
Pundits.
Politopundit.
The punditocracy.
The pundit. Pundit. I always say it wrong anyway. But anyway, pundit fact, which I think is a great idea, but I think it's going to be very difficult because there's so many pundits out there. There's tens of thousands probably, but they'll probably focus on a few and probably some of the more extreme ones and try to rein them in. But this includes, by the way, I think bloggers and Twitter people. So they're trying to cast a fairly wide net on it.
It is going to be a complete train wreck, and it's going to be totally entertaining. I can't wait.
Yeah, so they're going to just, how are they going to do it? They're going to post it in a daily... It's a whole different...
Well, it'll be a separate site. Yeah. It'll be a separate site, and somebody's already said, have they really thought this through? Isn't everything going to be half true?
Right. And they probably do have lines of people so you can click on them, and otherwise it's going to be out of control. They got to have the person, the pundit, and then true, false, true, false.
And their promotional video says they're going to use the pants on fire rating if it warrants it.
Yeah.
Well, all I can say is if maybe it was in place, they would have caught the Syria woman, the alleged Syria expert, who was not an expert and was appearing everywhere.
She wouldn't qualify because she wasn't a pundit, was she?
Well, they were asking her to analyze what was happening
I
in
think
Syria.
that she'd have made it.
Yeah.
All right, well, that is it for Beat the Press. What do you think of Obamacare? Should newspapers stop printing letters from climate deniers? Tell us what you think at beatthepress.org. Next week on Greater Boston, the 6th-month anniversary of the Boston Marathon bombings, we bring you an extensive look at the sequence of events and unanswered questions. Plus, we speak to one of the victims who is finally pulling her life back to normal after losing a leg. And Governor Deval Patrick joins us. That and more all next week at 7 on WGBH2. For all of us, I'm Emily Rooney. Thanks for watching.